Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 229 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the Second Amendment podcast. There's a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight is an ACP Round Table. Of course, per usual, we have the hostess with the mostess, Erin Paulette.
Merry Christmas, Adam, and or Boxing Day, depending on when you're listening to this.
That is true. And we have Oddball.
Hello, everybody.
And the one who... Well, actually, David, how is your Christmas celebration? Obviously, you're celebrating Hanukkah right now. So first up, the Hanukkah representative, David.
L'chaim.
And do you also celebrate Christmas? Because, of course, you are both Italian and Jewish.
Well, I will, instead of answering that in words, I will answer that with a picture from my living.
Look at that.
I mean, I think it's less a case of his biological heritage and more the fact that he married a Christian woman.
It's true.
But in that picture I posted, if you take a close look at the tree topper...
It's not lit, but yeah, that is a Star of David.
Yes.
Why isn't it lit?
Because we... that one that we bought, it does not have any lights in it, and I haven't added any. But it's very rustic. I was actually going to make one out of empty shotgun hulls, and I explained my design plan to my wife, and she just looked at me for a moment. I said, "You don't want me to do that?" "No." "Okay, I'm not doing that."
She's like, "That's the good idea, fairy talking."
That is the not a good idea, fairy.
You know, you should make a Jewish space laser Christmas tree topper.
Ooh.
Oh my
Get like
God.
a little model satellite, make it into a Star of David.
Mm-hmm. And you
I like
could have an illuminated laser beam.
You have just like a little piece of fiber optic sticking out of the front with an LED behind it.
Or a laser pointer.
We have cats. I don't want to destroy the house, so no.
I mean, it'll be stationary. I think it needs to move.
Until one of the little darlings does something with the tree and it shakes.
Speaking of cats, how do you keep yours from destroying your tree? Because I understand that's a very common complaint.
Oddly enough, ours don't seem to have that particular interest. As long as we make them a space underneath it where they can get cozy, it is very weird.
Here.
It's very weird.
We ever so often will catch one of the cats trying to chew on one of the lower branches, but
yes, and for us that's particularly funny because it's an artificial tree, so it can't taste or feel good, and yet our boy cat Flynn will go over there and just kind of gnaw. Is that your tree and one of your cats?
I'm allergic to cats.
Oh, I thought Oddball had posted that up.
no.
But if you take a look at the second photo that I posted of Molly lying under the tree, you'll see that there is the bit of garland hanging down. That garland was not hanging down earlier.
So the best way that I've found to avoid it is one, don't have any of the especially sparkly and pretty ornaments down near the bottom.
Oh my, yes.
And two, make sure that there's lots of toys for the cats to play with.
Yep.
Because then the cats will be playing with their toys instead of going and finding stuff to play with.
That is true. Did you see the picture that our friend Amy posted when she was trying to find something and looked under the drawer of her oven?
No.
Hold on a second, I will find it.
Have you all seen the link that I just posted? The video about the person or family that attached a motion sensor to a vacuum cleaner so that when the cats got too close, the vacuum turned on?
No, I hadn't seen that.
Well, there's the link. Now you can.
I'm watching it right now. It's a Dyson too, which it looks like it should be just like an electronic switch, but it's a physical switch. So if you just pull the plug and then plug it back in, it'll kick back on.
So this, with variations in toys, is basically what the underneath of every home with cats looks like.
Yes.
What are those springs from?
Those are cat toys. They're little plastic springs.
Oh, okay. Not having
So
cats, I didn't know that.
Yep, so they can bat at them and they will bounce in random directions unpredictably. And that's one of the things with cat toys is you'll see, excuse me. You'll also see there are cat toys where it's a ball with another ball inside it that's off center, so it'll roll eccentrically.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was just rolling straight away or straight to the side, the cat might chase it a little bit, but then they get bored as cats. Anywho, I don't think we were planning on talking about cats all.
There's always time to talk about pussy.
True.
Meow.
But as this is a Second Amendment podcast, I would like to share an image that I found in one of the. I'm not sure if it was the cursed guns or the homemade guns, but it was this.
Yes, that thing.
I can't call it cursed. It's beautiful.
It's very well made. You have to admit the stock is nicely done, but it appears to be a
rotary 40 millimeter grenade launcher.
I believe it's a 12 gauge or 12 or 10 gauge.
It's hard to tell scale. Yeah.
I mean, that barrel's chunky.
Yeah. But it's looks like a 6-shot, and I would not want to fire it while holding that foregrip because there does not seem to be any blast deflector.
No.
No, there does not.
Hang on a minute. If that's a 6-shot, then that's a double barrel. Yeah, look at the rotary. Well, maybe not.
I don't think it's double barrel.
Well, I
think it's just it's out of
the bottom picture.
Out of battery.
The bottom picture. Those two, whatchamacallits, the place where you put the shells. They look like they're side by side as opposed to at an angle, not like the very obvious one at the front and one at the bottom.
I think there are 3 sets of 2 just for ease of manufacture.
Because
you can see the one at the top center and the one that's down out to the side. If you looked at those in isolation, they would also look the same way.
The point that I'm making is that wouldn't this be even more so if it were a 6-shot rotary double barrel?
That would be cooler, definitely, but I only see one barrel.
Yes,
yeah.
Are you sure? I mean, it's cut off at the bottom one, and then it might just be my eyes. Maybe it's confirmation bias. I kind of feel like I could see a shadow of a second barrel in the second middle picture.
No, it's definitely a single barrel, but looking at it, those chambers, that top chamber is not lined up with.
Yeah, it's not in battery.
The barrel at all, which makes me wonder if it's an 8-shot.
I was thinking either 7 or 8-shot myself.
Yeah.
Either way, what Erin's saying is she wants a shoulder-fired 12-gauge Thunderstruck.
Yes.
And she's not wrong.
Actually, basically any double-barrel shotgun, when you let loose both barrels with shot as opposed to slugs, you're not going to have the issue of the Thunderstruck where there's a little bit of fratricide with gas pressure because it's shot. You'll just get a broader spread.
Now, Erin, I will tell you, even though I've been told that it's terrible and horrible for the mechanisms of the for the gun, I have pulled both triggers of a 12 gauge at the same time. Don't do that.
Depending on the shotgun and depending on the loads, it's not necessarily all that punishing. If the gun is in good condition and you're not using like the high pressure loads.
Oh yeah, and I mean doing it once is probably not going to do any harm to it.
It's like 357 through a Smith & Wesson Model 19.
Mm-hmm.
A regular diet is bad for the gun, but the occasional one's not a problem.
But yeah, with that Rossi coach gun, I did it at your place, David, and yeah.
Yes, and you didn't enjoy it very much.
FYI, the same people who make the Thunderstruck do make a double-barreled pump-action shotgun.
And the operation of that thing is just weird because it operates both like a double barrel shotgun and like a pump action.
The learning curve is steep.
So each time you rack the
Pump.
slide the pump on it, you get 2 trigger presses. You get 2 bangs before you have to operate it again. But that's just weird.
Now, I haven't really looked into this one, but I'm curious as to if you pull the trigger once and rack the slide, does it eject the loaded round as well as the empty?
Yes.
Okay. So, because that would have been a lot more complicated to activate the extraction process only after the trigger has been pulled on the chamber. But yeah, it's like someone took 2 KSGs and melted them together and made it even more awkward looking.
It's probably also very heavy.
Well, of course it is. I'm just wondering if these are the guys that got fired from Caltech for doing too much coke.
And unfortunately, I believe they were also the ones that were showing off a little 4-barrel 22 Derringer that I really wanted, but they never actually brought it. I don't think they ever actually brought it to market, and it is no longer on their website.
That's too bad. Oh, and the DP-12 tall barrel pump shotgun weighs 11 pounds, according to the website. 11 pounds. Unloaded.
Mm-hmm.
And it will hold 14 rounds in the magazines plus 2 in the chambers. So it's 11 pounds plus the potential of 16 rounds of 12 gauge. Even more if it's able to run mini shells. So yeah, that looks like that would be a fun thing to have, just to take out and blast into a hillside.
Oh yeah.
Although I know people who would bring it to a high-end skeet competition.
I never got any problems shooting sporting clays at my club with my 590.
Sporting clays is different. Sporting clays a little bit more blue collar. Not a lot more, but a little bit more. But no, high-end skeet, that's where the guys have like the $20,000 and $30,000 double shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And someone shows up with one of those.
Oh, and I was wrong. It was Ivor Johnson, the new Ivor Johnson company that.
The Ivor Johnson name.
Yeah.
So when are we gonna stop yapping and start opening presents?
You know what?
Oh, well,
Erin, would you like to ladies first?
Yes, I would, but I have 2 here.
Give me a moment. Let me go grab mine. I didn't know we were doing that. I'll be right back.
I did read the show notes.
Yeah,
He's like, "What are we? We're talking. It's going to be on the blooper reel. We are talking." He's like, "So what are we talking about tonight?" I'm like, "There are show notes." Oh, logs into the show notes.
And weird, someone just posted this up with the notification that this will have to be a future movie track.
Oh hell yes! Oh hell yes!
For that one, Erin would join the movie track, or she would just want to watch it in private.
Oh my goodness, Erin, why don't you read this fine?
Lesbian Brokeback Mountain remake, starring Margot Robbie and Emma Watson, confirmed for 2023.
And the comment below.
I'll let you do it.
Okay, I'm back.
So the comment below is, I'm conflicted. On one hand, if this were true, I'd be annoyed with Hollywood trying to remake every movie with female leads because my vagina feminism. On the other hand, there would be lotion. So I'm fairly sure that this is not true, but still.
You moon-faced assassin of joy!
Hey, someone can always make a fan film.
And after the very nice present I got you, books.
Yes, one of the best presents.
Always good presents.
All right, so Erin, are you going first?
Yeah. Who should I open first? Yours or Oddball's?
Oddball, what do you say?
Well, David hasn't received mine yet, so he'll just have to pretend to be surprised when he gets it tomorrow. But
just like I believe that Oddball and Weer'd, you've both gotten the present that I sent, but Erin's is not due, according to the website, until 10 p.m. by 10 p.m. tomorrow.
Oh, and they're the same thing?
They were the same thing. They were ordered within minutes of each other.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So I understand Oddball getting his first because he lives about 5 minutes from an Amazon distribution center.
So again, which one do I open?
Open Weer'd.
Okay.
I know what you got me.
You got me bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap.
Yay.
Yay!
Everyone likes bubble wrap.
It's forever fun.
Good Lord.
It's wrapped well.
It is.
Okay, you got me totally not brass knuckles.
Totally not brass knuckles. That is in fact.
First off, they're aluminum.
Yes. Yes.
Secondly, they're a bottle opener.
Yes.
Yes.
In actuality, they are a bottle opener. Any resemblance to a knuckle duster is entirely coincidental. and I will say, for the Christmas spirit, not only are they friggin' awesome, but they also are Oddball and David already opened those because my shipping labels got my return address labels got pulled off all my boxes for whatever reason. But that is from not Cav Arms.
What is the KE Arms?
KE Arms.
Yeah, K that is from KE Arms, and so they are, as Ian McCullum said, alarmingly overpriced bottle openers. And so not only did you guys get a lovely piece of art and functional bottle opening and or recreational aluminum sculpture, but also a fine donation in your name has been made to KE Arms in fighting this absolutely BS lawsuit.
Also, shout out to Runkle the Bailey, who I hope is listening to this, because he said he would check out our podcast because I invited him to be on the show for you to interview, and I really hope he takes us up on this offer. So hi Ian, big fans.
I look forward to it greatly. Yeah, he is a really, really cool guy, and not only do I want to talk about various things like possibly this KE Arms lawsuit with him, because he's been really digging deep, and he's a lawyer and I'm not. But also, he's from Canada and he's a gun nut. That's a conversation right there.
I'm not sure if he's a gun nut or a freedom supporter who focused on firearms law. That's something that would have to come out in the interview.
Okay, well, there we will crack that enigma.
I would also like to point out about the KE Arms bottle opener is if you put it with the two holes at the top, it resembles a slightly stylized owl, which is very similar to the logo that my wife and I use for the vinegars that we make as gifts and the wine and the mead that we make.
Yeah, I can see it. But yeah, this is good stuff. And for those that don't know, KE Arms acquired the intellectual property of Cav Arms when Cav Arms was disappeared for various NFA violations, and now they're being sued by GWAX Armory.
Yes,
and
they're being sued by Sex Wax.
Yes, and this whole lawsuit, it turns out, is really being driven by one multimillionaire who is kind of seeing it as his own personal project. And a bunch of information has come out that essentially they are suing them, saying that they own the intellectual property of the polymer lower that they made, which
And KE Arms is guilty of distributing privileged information that, it turns out, GWAC shared with anybody who asked.
Mhm.
You know, I seem to recall that we actually discussed this. Oh, wait, yes, we did. Episode 217, which was another roundtable.
Yes.
But
It's the gift that keeps on giving. But speaking of gifts, to get us off of this...
Hold on. I just wanted to say that the one thing that we didn't discuss, because it came out in one of the most recent ones, is essentially it has now been open that GWAX has no interest in actually, if they do win this, they have no interest in actually producing polymer AR lowers using this technology. They just want to take the technology away from KE Arms and just lock it up in a box.
The anti-gun millionaire who's backing the lawsuit has publicly stated that he doesn't like ARs and doesn't think that they should be available. Yes.
So essentially, this lawsuit is lawfare entirely to strip KE Arms of their ability to make AR-15s.
Prevent anyone else from doing same.
Yes.
But I would like to go back to the gifts for a moment, because in addition to looking like an owl, there is also a small hole near the top that you can put a wire through and then hang from your Christmas tree like I did.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, is that what that's for?
I don't know if that's what it's for, but that's what I'm using it for.
Oh.
It actually looks like it would fit a hex wrench or maybe one of the hex bits. But I decided to put a wire through it and hang it from the tree. I could have actually hung it lower because it's not one of the ones I have to worry about the cats hurting. Although vice versa, maybe.
It might hurt the cats.
Yeah.
Okay, Weer'd. Open mine.
Okay. Let's see.
It's the one addressed to Weirdington Elizabeth Beard.
Okay.
I think I'm the only person who does that.
Oh, I do that too.
Oh.
Yeah, Xander does it as well.
But I will mix it up, and sometimes I will use his, as he refers to it, Christian name just to confuse him.
Well, I mean,
just like his referring to it as a Christian name confuses us.
I literally told you pretty much within 15 minutes of when it was delivered that it was there.
Yes, you did. But there was like 3 that arrived.
Yeah, but were those 3 all addressed to Weirdington Elizabeth Beard? Aha!
So I've got it,
and Jacques Hughes.
I'm opening it up. All right, let's see. It is a thing, and
it is a thing.
I need to deploy the mermaid knife to get it out.
Stab yourself.
Packaging. I didn't stab myself with a mermaid knife. The cursed blade's upstairs.
Yes, but the mermaid knife knows the other one has tasted blood, and it wants some too.
I mean, they are mermaids. They're essentially aquatic succubi. All right, it is a leather case.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think I figured this out. Is this a flask holder?
It is.
Oh, look at that.
Yes, it is a leather case for a whiskey flask, and you can either thread it through your belt or you can sling it over your shoulder with the strap.
Nice.
Or I can
like a continental soldier.
Or I can throw it around my neck like a tourist wallet.
Yeah,
and wear it concealed underneath my shirt.
Now, I mean, I don't know if you have a flask that'll fit it, but you mentioned that you had several, so I figured the odds were in my favor.
Yes, I can almost guarantee that I have at least 1, if not 5, that will fit that. Like, I have so many flasks, and it is frustrating because a good hip flask is an absolute beautiful piece of ergonomic architecture, and due to America's open container laws and the general idea of the traveling someplace to get loaded is generally a frowned upon activity. So as a general rule, they only get like tucked in suitcases, or I will sometimes load up my little travel bar, which I'm trying to remember if you guys all saw my travel bar. Not David, but Oddball was there.
I partook.
Yes. I will sometimes just like shove a bunch of flasks in there with various things and just remember which label is which. So thank you, Erin. This is absolutely beautiful.
You're welcome.
Yeah, what is the company called again? This is the
well, I closed out Hide and Drink.
Yes.
The same company, I believe, which created David's belt-worn dump pouch.
Yes.
Which I use almost every time I'm out on the range at the store.
Yay!
Oh, and just for comparison, I tossed up the owl logo we created.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, people may not know this, but if you turn it on its side, if you rotate it to the left, you will see...
Anti-clockwise.
Yes. You will see the initials of the two of them.
Yes.
Which is owl.
Yes. Obviously, reading is not one of Weer'd's wisdoms. But you can see the resemblance between the totally not Knuckle Duster's bottle opener and our logo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And they also say...
no, I am not going to bring a lawsuit against KE Arms for that.
May I say, Erin,
Mm-hmm.
this leather flask pouch also smells delightful. Oh my
is
God.
it vegetable tanned leather?
It must be. I mean, it's really nice. I mean, on one hand, it does smell a little bit like the walking into the Wilson's leather store in the mall. We're just, this smells so nice. But like, it's definitely a much more natural smell. So it probably is vegetable tan.
Yeah, I can't find anything which tells me how it's preserved. So,
But the smell difference between chromium or chemical tanned leather and vegetable tanned leather is distinct.
all right, who's
All
next?
right. Yeah, who's next? Let's see, because I think Oddball and David, both of you have already opened yours because my labels fell off.
Yes, and I was thoroughly amused by it, and it's sitting here on my desk.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? Like
It is.
It is. It's made of aluminum, so it's both light and substantial, which is delightful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, Oddball, you have the present I got you.
Yes, I have two. I have one from Erin, and I have one from David. I will open Erin's.
And Erin will just have to be surprised when she gets hers
Mm-hmm.
because shipping is weird.
Yes. There we go. Tis the book. Ah, I needed this book.
Good.
It is the How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety.
Oh, yes. Because if you don't talk to your cat about gun safety, who will?
Thank you. Yes, I surprisingly don't already have this book, and I've been needing to get a copy of it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I pulled it off your Amazon wish list. It's like, oh, that's convenient. Click.
And so, if you don't talk to your cat about gun safety, will the dogs talk to him?
Sorry, the full title is How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety and Abstinence, Drugs, Satanism, and Other Dangers That Threaten Their 9 Lives.
I think for a future like ACP backed up, you'll need to read one of the section on keeping your cats away from Satan.
Oh,
I think it's the other way around.
That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking about that line from Constantine when he picks up Rachel Weisz's cat and goes, "Yeah, cats are good. Half in, half out already."
Yep. So he can look in hell through a cat.
Correct.
And anyone who's lived with cats watches that scene and goes, "Yeah, that's legit."
Oh yeah. That's why it came to mind. It's a very memorable line because it's one of those like, oh, that is really dead balls on. Okay, who's next?
I guess that would be me, because I also received the present from the Weer'd Beard, which we already talked about, and I also received the best present that I may get this year, short of the one from my wife, because sorry, Erin, nothing can trump whatever she gives me.
Yeah, fair.
And that was a box of books, like a medium flat rate box full of books, and a model of a 53, I believe, Bel Air, which is on the shelf near the mantle. But the books were a variety of Sherlock Holmes and Poirot books, There was also I don't have them in front of me. Irving, Sleepy Hollow, and the like, as well as a couple of DVDs that we'll have to watch at some point. But I am as Erin correctly surmised, I am a very big Sherlock Holmes fan. So these are Sherlock Holmes books I did not have because they're not the original Conan Doyle stories. They are some of the later add-ons. Some of which, by the way, some of the writers who picked up that scepter did a remarkably good job of echoing Conan Doyle's style. Some not so much, but I'm hoping that these are the former, not the latter. But regardless, it is very much appreciated because you can never have too many books.
Yay!
Thank you, Erin.
Glad you like them.
Oh, yes. Although, in proper Jewish tradition, I now feel a little bad about my gift. Anywho, moving on.
All right, is it?
So either Weer'd or Oddball open the gift I sent them.
Okay. I'm actually not sure which one is which, since neither one of them came directly from you. I got one that's an envelope, an envelope with a flattish object inside of it, and the other one is a box.
The flattish object one may very well be mine. Does it have a little bit of weight to it?
It feels it's got some weight to it.
That's probably the one that I sent you.
Well, I will actually reach into this one because I know that there is some of the Amazon gifty type cards in there. Let's see. I hope you never have to use this from David. Okay, this could be cheeky.
Yeah, I guess
it's not a butt plug
at the same time.
It is not a butt plug.
Well, I don't think it is a butt plug, but it might be used to remove one.
That is true.
Without in case that was not a butt plug because it didn't have a flared base. Oh, it's got a ring. It is. Oh, I have actually seen one of these.
A black metal snowflake.
Mine is gold.
Yes, every one of you got personalized colors.
Oh, this is really, really cool. It is.
Is this
I actually
one of the multi-tools in the shape of a snowflake?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I've seen those.
Yes, I have one. It's part of my normal travel kit. So it's a series of different size screwdrivers and wrenches or nut drivers.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah, it's small, so it can easily fit in a pocket of a suitcase or briefcase or whatever, and it's really, really handy. But as with any other type of multi-tool, there are better dedicated tools if you have access to a full tool set.
Right.
But if you don't have access to a full tool set, this kind of thing is really handy.
Yeah, neat.
Well, this thing is so neat. And you could put a little string on it, wear it around your neck, and then, use it as like a morning star.
I'd recommend a heavy cord, not a string.
Okay. Kevlar string.
I was thinking like braided leather or chain.
I like chain.
Yep.
Well, thank you, David. This is really
welcome.
cool. I remember seeing this on one of those, like the mobile games that I play have the little ads for little ad breaks and all that. And one of them was like a wish.com type like, Alibaba type places. Like, oh, you could get these sort of things. And it was showing me this snowflake. It is one of those like, oh man, that's actually looks really interesting. I would totally click on this and buy this, but I could totally see who sent this ad, and it's a sketchy online store. I don't trust that I would get what I ordered. So,
yep. And just for the NSA ATF folks listening, not Wish.com, not Alibaba, not an auto sear,
and not an oil filter.
No, nor an oil filter.
It reminds me a lot of my dad used to. He bought a bunch of them and would periodically lose them. But
that sounds familiar.
Years ago, Sears sold little like flat discs with different size flathead screwdriver heads sticking off of them, and it was small enough that you could easily throw it on your keychain.
Yeah. Yeah, there's also the I forget who made them, but it basically had a widening spiral around the outside of the disc, so it was a continuous flathead screwdriver, and you would just put whatever appropriate width is to the screw head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've got one of those.
Yeah, they're of limited use because you have to have enough access to the screw. For panhead screws, they're fine. For flush set, not so much.
Right.
But really, for if it's a slotted screw, you could just use the blade of your knife.
Oddball, do you want to hit him or should I?
This is Oddball, the version of David you talking about taking the side plates off your revolvers.
Except there's no damage actually being done with what he's doing.
Yeah.
There's no damage being done to the knives either. They're fine.
I repeat, Oddball, do you want to hit him or should I? I mean, technically, I'm closer.
if you're cold, they're cold. Take them inside.
I believe it's. I guess that would make it Erin's turn.
Okay.
And if you're opening mine, you need to read the card first.
Okay. Because Biden says we can't have one from Oddball.
Center an AR?
I mean, it's about the size of my hand, so I kind of doubt it.
It could be a mini AR.
I mean, it's got some heft to it, that's for sure. Good Lord, how many layers does this thing have? It was in a gift bag inside paper, now it's inside plastic.
I can hear the crinkly. Discord likes Erin better.
And it's some sort of a triangular box, I guess, with the zipper.
Yep, so look in the box.
What's in the box?
Oh!
He couldn't have sent us all Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
Oh my goodness! It's so adorable! And I assume it works.
Yes. Yes, it does.
He sent me a little tiny... I don't know if it's a cannon or a mortar.
It's a cannon.
Aww.
It's a pocket-sized cannon. Oh my god, that's so precious.
With the proper projectile, would it be a pocket rocket?
I mean, it comes with ammunition, although there aren't any instructions.
There aren't any instructions, and
what could possibly go wrong?
I think it uses a 1.8 millimeter fuse. So basically, if you can find a fireworks shop, buy one of those grosses of bottle rockets and disassemble them for the fuses, and you can use the powder in the bottle rocket, I guess.
Do you have a picture of this from where you ordered it, or do I need to take pictures?
If you give me just a minute, I will bring up the thing from Amazon.
While he's doing that, I did put some pictures in the chat for punishment for Weer'd for threatening to abuse a knife.
So
well, I know I got the same note, so I assume I have the same thing.
Yeah. It's Weer'd and David. Well, David will be getting the same thing, and Weer'd got the same thing.
I will be surprised.
So I won't post a picture. Ha 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 ha. But yeah, Biden says we can't have cannons, so I ordered some off of Amazon.
And Erin, I really like the shibari tree. Somehow I don't think my wife would go for that.
There's only one way to find out. It's like your statement of putting a cape on her, because she'll either laugh or she'll be super mad.
So when she's mad, you put a cape on her and tell her now she's super mad, and either she kills you or she laughs, or both.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I don't like sticking my hand into a bonfire, so I don't do those things either.
And yet you married an Irish woman.
A redhead. A petite redhead. Never said I was the smartest, man.
It's such a nice little case, too.
It is. And it's got a little ramrod. And
Title of your sex tape. That was mean, but I regret nothing.
You couldn't not. You couldn't not. I mean, partially because that's part of your shtick, but also because that was the lead-in line for that was just.
Also, I wonder with this if you even need to use a fuse, or could you just essentially pack the charge hole with powder and just use a significantly long taper?
I guess we're not doing phrasing anymore.
Just touch it off with a match.
Yeah, I mean, preferably a barbecue match.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna say I've definitely come 4th of July. That was one thing I was hoping for when I was trying to rehab my my Walker Colt, my Weer'd Walker Colt, was to see if I could rehab it in time for the 4th of July, because everyone's setting off illegal fireworks. So why can't I just load that thing up with blank charges?
I did just recently get a couple of boxes of blanks for my M1 Garand or 03 Springfield. I was trying in a local auction. I did bid on a can full of 308 blanks, which I could have run through my AR-10, but somebody wanted them more than me, so I didn't. So forget it.
Well, thank you guys so much. These were spectacular gifts. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble with this little cannon.
Well, just keep the snowflake handy, and you can probably use it to get out of whatever shackles they put you in. If you want to.
And yeah, Panya, when I told her what I was getting you guys, Panya just rolled her eyes and said, "Of course you are."
And you know what's really hilarious? The little jar, are they lead balls or are they steel?
I think they're steel.
Okay, that might be how it scoots by the I don't think it's actually illegal to send ammunition to somebody in Massachusetts, but the for me to possess ammunition or ammunition components without a license is in fact a crime.
Well, remember a month or two ago when I asked you about that?
I do, actually.
You've been planning this for a while.
'Tis the season.
Of course, now I've got this urge to send Weer'd a different cast bullet every month.
I mean, you can do all you want.
Because, I mean, it's not like they're going to come and prosecute me here in Tennessee, because Tennessee would just look at them and laugh. But you receiving it, that could be a problem.
Well, yeah, not me receiving it, because again, I've got cases upon cases upon cases of ammo.
Yes,
and
but
I just
receiving it through the mail.
And I actually have received ammo through the mail to this address, because even on the places that there used to be places that didn't care. Like I've bought like cases of primers and things like that from and cast bullets and all that from different reloading houses, and then ammo from a couple of places for a while, until they suddenly went, oh, maybe we shouldn't be sending ammo to Massachusetts anymore. But if I send them my CNR, they'll suddenly like, oh, cool, now I can send you ammo.
Yeah, I need to check in with some of my my peeps in New York, how that's changing, or how that has changed, because now they're actually starting to try to enforce that.
Yeah.
But either way, no. What you need to do is just start sending sending random single cast bullets to people who you know don't have a Massachusetts LTC,
and the occasional 30-round AR magazine.
I mean, that straight there is a felony in a box. I told you about the picking up my daughter at the New Hampshire liquor store, and I'm talking to her. She's telling me about her week up at her grandparents' house. She's excited to see her dad and giving me a big hug and all that. Meanwhile, my father, we got the two cars side by side with the hatchbacks open. Dad's just moving boxes from one car to the next, and I look over and I see a shipping box. as opposed to, more repurposed boxes and the various bags and stuff that we sent her with and all that. And I luckily went, it just seems off. Let me look in there. And in there was my 50 round 308 drum. And I said,
that wouldn't be a problem at all.
I explicitly said that stays at your house until the laws change. And then I will bring it back to Massachusetts. And if you get sick of holding it, I will find somebody else to hold it for you. But it's like, this has to go back to your house. Luckily, we are in New Hampshire where this is still okay. But that could have gotten tricky, especially again. I always joke about the fact that the anti-gunners always say you don't need 100 round magazines, and I point out the fact that is a fallacy ad absurdum, because no, the law is not about 100 magazines. You're not saying it's okay for me to have a 99 round magazine. You're saying I can't have an 11 round
magazine. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's one of those.
Well, it's just like with New York when the SAFE Act first went into effect, and they said you can only have 7 round magazines. And then someone pointed out that except for standard capacity 1911 magazines, there pretty much were no 7 round magazines, and there were definitely no 7 round Glock 19 magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And then the state, when they adjusted the law to exempt law enforcement, which they'd forgotten to do initially, derps, changed it to that you can have 10 round magazines, but you can only load 7 rounds unless you're at a range or at a certified shooting competition, which makes just as much sense as none.
Or actively being shot at.
No.
Of course not.
In your home, 7 rounds.
Yep.
If you put an 8th round in that 10 round magazine and you are not at the range or engaging in the shooting competition, you have broken the law and you have committed, I believe it's either a class E or F felony, which is, I think a class E felony is equivalent to sexual abuse of a minor.
Oof.
Yeah.
Except
New York.
Except for owning guns is worse.
Oh yes.
Nice.
Yeah, because they can sympathize with what they refer to as minor attracted persons.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind going on a cruise with some of the minor attracted persons. I would even be friends with them. I'd call them chum. Little awkward setup, but punchline was worth it.
It was a little bit awkward setup, but you recovered beautifully.
Yep.
Well, there.
Sorry if that bled through and autoplay video started to.
No, I didn't hear anything.
Nope.
Okay, good.
But so now, of course, we also have a few news stories to talk about as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to start off with what they say has never happened, and this has never happened on multiple occasions in Australia. There has been another spree killing there.
But that only happens in America.
Yes, and I really don't. I mean, unless you guys have something else to point out, I really wanted just to say, because for whatever reason, that's one of those like absolute bald-faced lies that keeps coming back up, is that they say after the Port Arthur massacre in Australia, they went through and they had uber restrictive gun bans, and hooray, they have never had another spree killing since.
Just like with the Dunblane massacre in England, they did the same thing, and they haven't had any gun crime since.
Yeah.
Except it went up.
Except for all the gun crime.
It went up for a number of years, and then it went way, way, way down, and then it came out that they were fudging the numbers and not counting most of the gun crimes that were being reported, and then the numbers went right back up. But yes, this was some people who, I mean, they're saying that they were like super conspiracy theorists, et cetera, and this, that, and group, and I don't even know. Is this true? Is this just justification? But either way, they set up an ambush for police. I guess it was a missing persons report, and they led the person to believe that the person was there. And when the police showed up, they shot the officers. and then more officers came.
Kind of like what happened in New York with the firefighters.
Yeah, and they did end up setting a fire as well, but either way, yeah, this was an ambush attack. So they are not only jerk murderers, but they're also cowards. So good for them. And they killed those officers, and then there was a siege. And then finally, when the SWAT team breached, they ended up shooting and killing all three of the suspects. So
they've done some court costs.
There's also some weird soap opera stuff going on that I didn't delve into too deeply. So the people who were killed were two brothers and a woman who... I'm not being cagey. It's okay. So she was originally married to the younger brother, and she had children with him. And then at some point, she left him, divorced him. It's kind of unclear. And then hooked up with the older brother. And apparently the younger brother was okay with this because the three of them were hanging out doing criminal deeds together. So... yeah, I think it's safe to say that they were wacky for whatever reason. You know, I know it's going to be very easy for people to say, oh, they were radicalized because of conspiracy theories and vaccines and whatever. It's like, no, these were hot messes to begin with.
Right. And that's almost always the case.
And as a general rule, if you've got some people that are crazy, they will latch on to more crazy and just like a big old game of Katamari.
What?
Oh, you guys have never played Katamari?
No. I actually thought you said calamari, but
no.
Yeah, Katamari Damacy. It's a really, really weird, trippy Japanese video game where you are this alien that is rolling this ball through this environment, and as it touches objects, they stick to the ball and make the ball bigger. And as the ball gets bigger objects can stick to it. You essentially end up like rolling up the entire level into a giant ball, while there is absolutely insane music playing in the background.
Okay.
So there
are people out there listening to this who are laughing. Like,
oh no,
I'm sure there are. I'm just okay.
It was truly a great game in its silliness and its stupidity.
But either way, yeah, these people are bonkers. I'm actually, that was actually another, you reminded me, Erin, one thing I wanted to mention was that I've got a couple of posts in the show notes just on some background information on this event, and there is very, very little information being said about the killers, except for that they were conspiracy theorists and, you know, just a few just random essentially character traits. But I haven't seen pictures of these people. I haven't, like, their news is getting a lot better at not naming and faming these killers, and I applaud them at that.
I do as well, and I think part of it might be because of the constant what's the word I'm looking for? But the constant negative feedback, we'll say, that they were getting after they were, especially the Boston City Marathon bombers, and they put the one brother on the cover of Rolling Stone looking like a rock star.
Oof.
And you guys remember that?
I didn't remember that particular detail, but
yeah, I didn't remember that either. But I remember a lot of women gushing, pun intended, deliberately over just how dreamy he looked.
Yeah. Yep. Here, I'll put it in.
I've got it right here.
And on similar note, and one that they have named names. Wow. There was a mass shooting in Canada.
Impossible.
Yesterday, I think. Yeah.
Do you have a link to it? I actually haven't heard that one. I
just put it in the show notes. In Toronto.
Gotcha.
It was, and in this case, it was actually a 73-year-old who shot 5 other folks in his condo building, and possibly, I haven't been able to get all the details, but possibly those 5 folks were part of the condo board that
so
he
the
had
equivalent of
long.
like a HOA type thing.
Yeah, not to make light of this by any means, but from what I have heard of the condo equivalent of HOAs,
Justifiable?
I'm not saying, in the words of Chris Rock, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, with condo buildings, it's much more of a necessary evil than a lot of HOAs are. A lot of HOAs just shouldn't exist. But
you're definitely right with that last point. But the other point, when my wife and I first started dating, she lived in a condo that had a condo board, and they were worse than a lot of the stories I've heard of HOAs. As in, so it was a lot of seniors living in this condo who were retired and so could observe their neighbors quite a bit. And they also had undue influence on the temperature of the thermostats because the individual condos only had limited adjustability.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the temperature very high in the winter, and my wife would open the windows because she was boiling in her own apartment, and they would complain to the condo board, who would then come and talk to her.
Mm.
And that was just one example that she told me.
Right. But like I said, it's, with a condo building, especially if it has elevator, there's a lot of common space in a condo building that needs to be taken care of and all that. So unfortunately, it's kind of needed to have an association dealing with that stuff, but also,
but they still wind up with undue influence.
Oh, yeah,
and they're really as bad as both their weakest link in this case, the most nosy, frumpy busybody on the board, and also how much the board is willing to stand up for or against such behavior.
I mean, that's why clear limits on the board authority, whether it's an HOA or a condo board, are so important.
Yeah, and it was, and also scale can make a difference too, because like my mom, where she lived last decade or so of her life, was a condo and had an association, but it was all of 4 units. So there was a decent amount of, yes, we need to be nice to each other because they're your direct neighbor. Versus if you have a building with 100 tenants,
right?
That unfortunately changes the calculus in a lot of people's brains on how nice they have to be to.
Oh yeah, it's the whole the internet paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
Is people will say things on the internet that they would never say in person because they know they get punched in the face.
Yes.
One thing to point out on this Canadian story obviously is breaking. Like this,
there's a lot of information yet to be learned.
Mm-hmm. Literally happened today. So we are well in the envelope of misinformation and unknown information, and so there's not. Oh no! Here it is. The person carried out the shooting with a semi-automatic handgun. Much like the kind that is currently being banned in Canada. So
yeah, and I did notice in every article I've seen about this today, they've been sure to mention that Canada doesn't have as many mass shootings as the U.S. does.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's like, yes, that's true, and there's stuff behind that, but also, I found it very interesting that every article I read about it made sure to make that statement.
Oh yeah,
and of course,
they have a script.
It said spree killings are so rare anywhere it when adjusted for population, it's actually like hilarious on how the numbers line out. Because again, it's the numbers are so small. Actually, one of my fiscs, I was doing gun violence rates, per country per capita, and one of this website was putting like Greenland was like the number 7 most violent country in the world, and they put a big asterisk next to it because they're like, yeah, Greenland has got almost no population, so there was like 2 murders in Greenland over the last like couple of years.
0.3% of the population died
out of the 12 people that live there. Yeah,
correct. And so it doesn't take much. And I remember there was I think it might have been around the time of the Virginia Tech shooting. There was also several spree killings in the country of Finland, and because of that,
of course, Finland may or may not exist.
Yes. Finland, that is such a good bit. But but because that Finland is such a small country, and there was like 2 spree killings on them, like they were 1 killing away from being the number 1 most common spree killing per capita country in the world. So and I know for a fact that, I mean, who knows, this shooting may actually push Canada over the limit and having it have more spree killings per capita than the United States, but I know that they're very, very close. So yeah, this is something that doesn't happen nearly as often in Canada, but it really does. That is a mischaracterization, or they're using the metrics that work the best in the fact that if with raw spree killings, yes, the United States has 20 times the population of Canada. It is It is mostly empty.
Yep. So I just tossed in a sort of vaguely associated article.
Actually, one last point, and then we'll move on to you, David. Is I just wanted to point out the fact that the news is giving the killers in Australia a good leaving alone. Obviously, this report in Toronto said it was a handgun used. What is not said in any of the reports on the Australian shooting is what kind of weapon was used in Australia.
And implies it wasn't an AR.
Oh, I mean, 110%, or they're going after like lever action shotguns and things like that. I'm trying to remember if they actually did get the ban passed or all that, but Australia's always going for more gun control laws. Listen to that, Americans. No, you're not going to. Someone says, oh, well, would you at least compromise on some gun control laws? No, I'm never going to compromise. I will agree.
Compromising for over a century.
Well,
yep.
Yeah.
I'm willing to support things that I think will work. Like I've loved all the different NICS improvement acts and things like that are going through to actually add uniformity to the background check system. I have very, very mixed feelings about the background check system as a whole, but if we're going to have it, we might as well use it well. Very similar to my frustrations on all these places that have killers and also have red flag laws, and the authorities or family and friends did not use the red flag laws when they're going through. I don't like red flag laws. I think they're awful and bad. That doesn't mean that they can't be used for good. So, but they're not.
Yeah, you cannot judge a law by its intent. You can only judge it by how it will be misused by your worst enemy.
Oh, dang. Right. Here we go. I was looking for that. You do not examine legislation in the light of the benefits it will convey if properly administered, but in the light of the wrongs it would do and the harms it would cause if improperly administered.
And that's not even counting maliciously administered.
And the delicious thing about that is that it was said by Lyndon Baines Johnson,
who knew a thing or two about improperly applied legislation.
Yes. So I'm just saying, if you haul that out when someone is talking about we've got to regulate the guns for the whatever. You can throw a Democrat president at them. And okay, it may not slow
that literally.
It may not slow down some of them, but at the least they'll sputter. Oh, that's different or whatever. Still,
yes, that was exactly what I was thinking. That is the phrase that would come out of their mouth.
Probably, but I mean, at the very least, you will maybe, get them to brain fart a bit while you work on your next point.
So David, the story that you posted?
Yes. So it is a Florida man story. And
Florida man.
Yes. But this is in contrast to so many of the other stories that have come out regarding mass shootings, mass killings, etc. Florida man arrested after writing mass murder coming soon. And so he was arrested after threatening to kill people in a mass murder on a Twitch stream. Mass murder coming soon. Today I'm totally going to kill 20 people. The IP address was traced, and detectives linked it to this guy's home. And when questioned, he told law enforcement officers he was depressed, drunk, and didn't mean what he said. And he also didn't actually own any firearms. But he was still arrested and booked into Palm Beach County Jail on a charge of written threat to conduct a mass shooting or an act of terrorism. So, on the one hand, he was not actually necessarily a credible threat. But on the other hand, law enforcement did what we've been yelling at them to do in all the other instances, where it comes out that after the event, there is that famous phrase, suspect was known to law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta give them props in this case. And I also have to share this particular very appropriate meme.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things similar to oh shoot, what's her name? Kathy Griffin.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the one where she posted on Twitter holding up the severed head that looked. Well, it wasn't a real severed head, but it looked like the president's severed head.
Yes.
Yeah. As she found out, the Secret Service doesn't have a sense of humor about that sort of thing. Nope. And I'm completely fine with law enforcement agencies not having a sense of humor over people saying, yes, I'm going to go out and commit mass murder.
We don't know if you're serious, so we're going to assume you are. Should be the default.
And again, it's one of those things of this is not a joke. This is not a good thing. And it's one of those, this guy is clearly in a bad place because he is depressed, drunk, and fantasizing about mass murder. Good idea to,
So you know who it kind of reminds me of?
Who's that?
Not necessarily the depressed part, but the fantasizing about murdering a bunch of strangers and writing about it. There was this guy in Texas who ran for a bunch of political offices, but when he was younger, he'd fantasized about driving his car into a group of school children.
Talking about Beto.
Yes.
Oh, I actually hadn't heard that story.
Yeah, neither did I.
He wrote it about it back before he got into politics.
Well, just when I thought I couldn't like the man more. What a charmer.
I just figured, you never tire of kicking Beta in the crotch.
I do not. I do not. Do it again.
But you should look up to that. I think it would be interesting to see what he wrote about that particular fantasy.
Yeah. But I will say, kicking Beto in the crotches. We're talking in memes. That meme of the first time you see Baby Yoda on screen with watching The Mandalorian. Oh, the 150th time you see Baby Yoda on screen, which watches Mandalorian. Oh,
and just for geeks have to geek, they revealed his name was Grogu. So,
I was about to say that. Yes, that is canonically his name, but nearly all of the fans I know have said that's stupid.
No,
I hate that name. We're still going to keep calling him Baby Yoda.
Yes, I was going to follow that up with that, but yes, in a nutshell, yes. Anywho,
all right. I think now time to move. All right. So we've just talked about some horrible events.
And what could have been but for the actions of law enforcement.
Yes. Yep. And
again, we bash law enforcement all the time for not doing their job and allowing this to happen. I think it's only just that we praise them when they do their job and prevent what could have been something horrible.
100%. I am not a back the blue sort of guy, but I'm also not a defund the police guy. I think I believe that police are people, and they can be good and they can be bad, and so we call them out when they're bad and we praise them when they're good. In this case, dude was making threats and clearly is not in a good place in his life. So number one, they're hopefully getting him some help that he actually needs.
That's my hope as well.
Yeah, it's like, I understand him being arrested. I don't think he should be prosecuted necessarily, but he definitely needs help. And, well,
right. And
he's in the system now.
Right, and that was one of my thoughts was, I don't know the laws in Florida in this regard, and if he has to actually be prosecuted to be sentenced to mental health, or if there's another way for involuntary commitment or something to get this man the help he obviously needs.
I mean,
but I'm sure there's a process.
You can Baker Act somebody, and that's the threat to yourself or others, and they can be held for, I want to say 24 hours. I'm not certain. It might be more than that. It's definitely not less.
Well, I mean, for observation and
yeah,
possibly longer if the professionals decide that they need to be.
Right. But to answer David, I've never gone about it, so I don't know how. I guess it ultimately does involve the police. But the point being is, I feel like I'm talking out my butt here, and I don't have the information handy. But I do believe
so what you're saying is your words smell like warm apple pie?
If the person comes along quietly, they aren't necessarily, I don't believe that they are arrested. The police show up, and if the person says, yeah, I need help, then they are gently taken away to the hospital. But if they resist, they will probably be cuffed. I don't know.
That's generally the nature of those types of interactions.
Yeah.
And by the way, the Baker Act is 72 hours.
Oh, okay. So I completely stepped all over someone who was talking.
No,
it was weird.
But in other news, in Chandler, Arizona, somebody walked into an Amazon delivery station with, I believe, an AR-15, and began shooting at people. And this person was not an Amazon employee.
I don't find AR-15. All I'm hearing is seeing his gun.
Yeah, okay. I didn't see anything about specific firearm.
I thought I had heard a report, but also
you might have, but it's not in the linked article.
And I looked
to the media, a single shot shotgun could be called an AR-15.
That's true. And also, I will note that the media is giving this a story a good leaving alone,
which implies, based on history, what?
The person who was doing the shooting was not an Amazon employee, but an Amazon employee was there and was legally armed and shot and killed this person.
You're mostly right, but you're missing some key points. So first of all, the two people, they were not actual employees of Amazon, they were contract workers. Now, I say this because, not to be pedantic, but I believe it's relevant because I am like 99.99999 certain that Amazon, like nearly every employer in the world, has an employee handbook that says, we don't care if you have a permit, you're not bringing a gun into work.
They absolutely do. I have looked that up when I was doing my spree shooting research project for Blog Variety Cast.
But these were contract workers who either didn't sign under the same rules, or they're going, I'm a contract worker. This is temporary anyway. Screw you. And so when the shooter walked up and shot the one contract employee, the other contract employee, and it's not clear that they were working together and as partners or whether they were just there at the same time. But the other contract employee, who was lawfully carrying a concealed weapon, shot the suspect, who then died on the scene in the parking lot. And
saving a lot of court costs.
Yes.
And there was much rejoicing.
And
I don't know about rejoicing, but
yeah, and so there's no motive for the shooting. The wounded worker is hospitalized. He's critical but expected to survive.
that's good news.
The other employee who did the shooting wasn't injured. Interestingly enough, the names of the 3 people involved haven't been released. And finally, and this is what I was sort of leading up to, the Amazon spokesman told the Associated Press that the company is working with law enforcement as it investigates the shooting, and really nothing else. So, if this were a direct Amazon employee, the guy would be fired so fast. I'm not sure. I mean, he's probably still going to be fired, but they're being very cagey about that because
Or his
this was
contract's not going to be renewed.
yeah, because
yeah, something like that.
this is very obviously a good guy with a gun shooting a bad guy with a gun, and
Which is, like I said, when you said they're giving this a good leaving alone, I'm like, this tells us what? And there we are. It does not fit the
narrative.
thank you narrative that is preferred, so therefore it will disappear. I mean, other than the firearms community, who knows who Eli Dickin is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they knew they couldn't get the traction, so they moved on. But yeah, that was alarming to me. This was 5 days ago, so getting up to almost a week ago, and
so it's definitely past the 48 hours.
All of the news stories that I could see right off the top of my my Google search for news releases were within that day or the next day of the shooting, and it's really not being touched by a lot of the news agencies. So, I mean, this is really. I praise the news for not plastering the photograph of the spree killer and giving their name and giving their their motivations and maybe reading excerpts of their manifesto, et cetera, as part of the coverage of the story. But I gotta say, when somebody has a gun and actually uses it for self-defense, I mean, not only is that a good story about a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun, but it also is not publicizing the boogeyman that might get a spree killer to think twice. Because if you're going up like the guy in the guy in Florida, David was talking about, who was making terroristic threats and all that. If he was thinking, I'll go shoot up this area, but there's been several news stories about every time someone pulls a gun out and starts shooting indiscriminately, somebody else quickly puts like 5 rounds in them, and that's the end of the story. They might go, or I could just stay home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. If I go out and do this, I'm most likely going to die and then be quickly forgotten. That's the message that we all, I think, want to get out to these potential spree killers. Is it's not going to get me fame. It's not going to get my name remembered. It's not going to get my face in all the newspapers. It'll most likely just get me dead and forgotten.
Or maybe worse, the photograph that got leaked of your dead body on the floor of a shopping mall with cat ears on and a EMT trauma tag set on your body that says dead.
Or
leaked.
the picture of the Club Q shooter after he got the beatdown.
Oh my goodness. I had forgotten about that. Thank you for reminding me, David. Oh, the cockles of my heart.
A fantastic tune-up.
Have been warmed back. Yeah, that guy was like a wet piece of bread.
Yep.
A wet piece of pizza because of the colors.
Yes. Oh, he just he just juiced that prick.
With some help, because apparently one of the reports said that one of the either performers or other attendees of Club Q, as they walked past this guy giving the beatdown, said, "Give me a shoe," and they kicked the guy in the head as they went past on their way out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like, oh, too bad they did it only once. Could have set up a conga line.
But either way, thank you so much for this this Amazon contractor for being smart and carrying your gun and
using it responsibly.
Yeah, I don't know how the rules work. I mean, obviously, the Arizona does not have binding signage and such. So even if there was at the in the parking lot or at the entranceway to this this warehouse, so there might have been a sign that said no guns allowed, and you can go, yeah, no, thank you. If you want, you can not renew my contract. But
I would rather have my contract not be renewed than have been shot.
Exactly.
And then your contract won't be renewed anyways.
That's a valid point. So you're alive and your contract isn't renewed, or you're dead and your contract isn't renewed.
Mm-hmm.
You can always get another contract as long as you're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So good on this person. And again, for those of you that have a carry permit and you carry occasionally, you might want to think about stepping that game up a little bit, because you never know where it's going to be. Again, this appears, at least from the fairly old stories that I have in front of me, that this person was not had no connections to any of the victims or any of the people on site or to that facility at all. This was not a case of workplace violence. This is a case of an outsider coming in. And I wonder if, because again, as Erin pointed out, Amazon strictly says, while you are working here, there will be no carrying of firearms. Does not matter if you have a license, does not matter if it's legal. You can't carry a gun while working for Amazon. Otherwise, we will fire you. And so this guy, and this is a distribution warehouse, not like an Amazon store. So it's not like, Target, where Target, you can absolutely carry a gun in Target. They had their little thing about like, oh, you're not allowed to carry a gun in a Target, but it's not even written on their website. But as a Target employee, you cannot carry a firearm. So if it was a distribution warehouse owned by Target, there would be 0 guns on there. But
Amazon, not Target.
Well, I'm just saying any of the various places.
Okay. I didn't realize
the Amazon retail stores. I know we have one near our place, but I don't know how common they are. But Target or Walmart is another great example of places that have places where the public can come in and carry guns, and while the employees are disarmed, but also employee-only locations such as distribution warehouses and all that, where nobody is technically allowed to carry a firearm, and so that could be deemed as a soft target.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically any no guns location or facility.
I mean, about the only clue we have to this, and I could be completely off base, is that I believe they said that both of them were fulfillment drivers. So it could be a case of road rage. The guy felt like he got cut off, and so he followed this guy and then shot him. But it seems at this moment, based on the information we have, just completely random.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there was also a few years ago in California, I believe it was YouTube, a female YouTuber who had been throttled or whatever, went to the YouTube location and shot several people before killing herself.
Yes.
And it wasn't personal against any of the individuals who she shot. They were just convenient representatives of YouTube. And that very well might have been these were convenient representatives of Amazon for some real or imagined slight. Because crazy people do crazy things.
Well, unless they left something in writing, we ain't gonna find out.
Nope. And Erin, somebody posted this up in a someone was talking about the weather and how the temperatures are dropping and people are getting cold spikes, and someone from Florida.
It's the iguanas,
I don't know if
isn't
they
it?
It's Iguana Helper. My favorite part of that.
Oh, it's expired. It expired in 2008.
Yes, it's not only expired, it's 14 years expired. But it's a coupon, 75 cents off any family size Iguana Helper, and it shows a box of Iguana Helper by I can't quite read that. It's not Betty Crocker, but just add iguana, pasta iguana Italiano, because I believe the temperature might be dropping enough for it to start raining iguana.
Mm-hmm.
Buffy something or other, like Buffy Crocher or whatever.
Something that's for legal reasons is not Betty Crocker.
Yes. So I mean, I'm sure those of you, actually, I think all of you will laugh. But yesterday, it was damn cold. It got into the low 40s here.
Ooh.
For Florida, that's cold.
It's chilly.
Yeah.
So, it's like, what, 10 degrees above freezing? Yeah.
We're currently where I am, which is still in the south, we are, depending on which source, either 32 or 34 degrees right now.
Yeah, and
So,
it's
still above freezing, but not by much.
Yeah, and it's threatening to get down into maybe the single digits this weekend around here.
I don't think it's supposed to get quite that cold here. I think it's supposed to get into the mid-teens, but we won't know until it's passed.
Yeah.
Because weather is just a guess until it's happened.
Yep.
Oh, to be a weatherman.
Right.
Easiest job ever. You point at maps, you have zero accountability, and you're drunk by noon.
I mean, that last part you could do already.
Yes. I'm practicing.
Yes.
I call it meteorology school.
And you're the dad of a young girl, so you're always wrong is kind of a given. And that'll just increase as she gets older. I don't know where your accountability level lies, though.
Well, this show's got to be good. Otherwise, no one will listen.
No, I meant in your general life.
Oh, moving on. So this is an interesting one. This is not surprising, unfortunately, but it sounds like the CDC had been in email discussions with gun control people, and they are telling the CDC to move the data around so that it is
They hide the data. From what I remember reading, it was with the blessing of President Biden. These people went in to talk to the CDC admins, telling him that they needed to hide this report, pull it off the website, because it was causing problems getting, quote unquote, effective and reasonable gun control put through.
Yeah, this was the 2013 study that was done during the Obama administration that mentioned, I don't remember the low number, but the high number was something like...
I think it was like 600,000.
Yeah, but between that and like 2.5 million defensive gun uses. And
based on Gary Kleck's research, I believe.
Yes, exactly so. And there's a quote here I want to pull up.
Are you going to read it in your sarcasm voice? Or is it not that kind of quote?
Sure. And so this is from Mark Bryant. I'm not sure who this person is, but writing to the CDC officials, because apparently a bunch of people, this lobbying campaign, met with the CDC. I guess they're trying to get around the Dickey Amendment. Is that the one?
Either the Dickey Amendment or the Dick Act. I don't remember which one.
Dickey Amendment.
Okay.
Thank you, Oddball.
But yeah, it's.
I just knew there were dicks involved.
That 2.5 million number needs to be killed, buried, dug up, killed again, and buried again. It is highly misleading, is used out of context, and I can't say that. I honestly believe it has zero value, even as an outlier point in honest DGU discussions. That's his Pinocchio nose growing, because he used honestly twice, and That word, I do not think it means what he thinks it means.
That guy was in Germany. They would not have a firewood shortage.
And I will. Actually, was this the Bryant fellow?
Yeah, Mark Bryant.
Yeah, Mark Bryant. So yeah, he runs the Gun Violence Archive, which is a metadata service that correlates spree killings per the Mother Jones definition, not the FBI definition, and weights it heavily towards padding the books in favor of making the United States look more dangerous, and they're not particularly good at following up at how these stories go through. I've talked about them in the past, but essentially they are an anti-gun group, and they are creating this as a way to pave the way for future gun control.
And apparently they are under the impression, and I guess they're right, that they can dictate terms to the CDC.
Yep, they are under that impression because, in fact, they can do that.
They have the full support and cooperation of the President of the United States. And since the director of the CDC, I believe, serves at the pleasure of the executive.
Yep.
So they want to keep their job, so they'll do what they are told.
And yeah, I find it just disgusting. Since we don't like this data, let's just make sure to remove it from being mentioned.
Because the science is settled.
Yes.
I'm just going to go ahead and save that CDC report in the Internet Archive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else do we got after that one?
Let's see. I believe this was we've got a few things going on in various courts that I'd posted up. And actually, I'm going to do this a little bit out of order, just to of what it was posted, just to I think it flows a little bit better. So first, I'm in Rhode Island. They recently passed a magazine ban and are being sued over it. And the judge out there is refusing to place a temporary injunction on the ban. And he has stated a few things as to why. One, he doesn't believe that magazines should be considered firearms or firearm parts, and therefore,
yes. This story, yes.
And therefore not protected by the Second Amendment. And he also believes that, and part of the reason why the injunction is necessary is because this law has, I believe as of now, has actually taken effect, at which point, yes, the fine citizens of Rhode Island, if you own a, quote, large capacity magazine, you are to destroy them, get them out of state, hand them over to the cops. You are no longer allowed to possess high-capacity magazines. And the judge also stated that, in his opinion, well, magazines are cheap, therefore it's not really an imposition for the state to force its citizens to either turn in or destroy their private property, with cause or without.
Well, the good news that we have seen from both Canada's bans and from New Jersey, did Hawaii pass one? It seems like every time
so.
in the very recent years when laws have been passed, the general rule for the public is F you, I think I'll keep it.
Yeah, and
also point to the New York SAFE Act in 2013.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot of that right now. If for nothing else, this court case is still going on and will probably go on for a few years because this judge is obviously anti-gun and is not going to be particularly sympathetic to the plaintiff's arguments, and I believe they're part of the Second Circuit, which means it's going to have to get fought all the way to the Supreme Court for it to have any to have really a good chance of reversal. So that's the bad news out of the three that I posted.
Just a question on this one. Was this judge who's with the magazines who said that they weren't firearms and therefore weren't protected, didn't he also somehow declare that they were firearms, or is that a different case? I remember there was one where either a judge or an attorney argued both that they were that magazines were and were not firearms, and I'm just trying to remember if this is that one.
I'm trying to remember. I do know that this judge did talk about how with the violence and blood in the rivers of blood in the streets, et cetera, et cetera. In his statement, he made it clear that he knew nothing about how about firearms or how they worked. But I'm trying to remember if he.
I think he made that quite clear with his other statements.
Well, I mean, and to the point of absurdity, where he felt the need to say, well, if you're like the court and don't know how these things work, here's what magazines do and where they get it, and that they get inserted in the gun and stuff like that. And as somebody else has pointed out, he's a federal judge. How has he been a federal judge without doing enough being involved in enough criminal cases to have at least that much knowledge? Or, have you, if you watch enough TV or movies, you understand that there's this box that goes into semi-auto guns.
And holds a bazillion rounds.
Right. Yeah. So that's the one downer of the three that I posted, and I try not to be negative about things, but I have a hard time looking at things and not going, okay, for there to be progress in a lot of these cases, it'll have to be in front of the Supreme Court, and that's assuming that the Supreme Court will hear it, which I would love to see Justice Thomas leap onto the bench and rip his shirt off and scream "shall not be infringed," but
or just give him that patented Judge Thomas dead-eye stare, hold up the Nysurpa versus Bruin decision, and just simply say, "Did I stutter?"
Yes, I would thoroughly enjoy that one too. But I'm worried that it's going to be another decade
years,
or so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the current status. I need to reach out to my contacts about this again, but I know that Nysurpa versus Bruin 2 is starting to work its way through the New York courts.
Mm-hmm.
But back to this judge and his pride of ignorance. Friend of the show with very common name regularly comments how that is a necessary part of the anti-gun movement. They have to maintain ignorance as a virtue.
Yeah, it's willful ignorance, and like you said, that's virtuous. That they don't.
It's virtuous ignorance.
Anything.
In almost anything else that can be discussed, virtuous ignorance is not possible or allowed.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that same conversation with anti-gunners in my own life.
Mm-hmm. So the first of the good news ones is the sad news is Oregon recently passed, I believe it was Measure 114.
Oh, yes, it was.
And part of that there's a bunch of stuff in that measure, and part of it is another high capacity magazine ban. And the judge in this case has in fact placed an injunction on that part of the law going into effect. And
permanently or temporarily?
It's temporarily.
Okay.
So the case is still going on, but it's, if I remember correctly, there's one step in between the emergency order and a temporary injunction. But this is definitely while this case is going on, the ban is not in effect.
Yeah.
And the wording in the statement from the judge makes it sound like the state of Oregon very much has an uphill battle to prove to him that a magazine ban is not unconstitutional.
Yeah, it does not violate Bruin. Or the requirements of Bruin, I should say.
Right. Which
Harbor versus Bruin, pardon me.
All of us here clearly agree that, that the Second Amendment means that no, we should be able to have 50 round drum mags for our P365s
or our 32 Berettas. Ooh,
yeah.
I would like to get a 50 round drum for my Astra 2022 short. And then I'd like to be able to find 50 rounds of 22 short.
And speaking of HR 114, I believe a very friendly organization to the show has recently made a statement on its feelings towards it. Erin, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yes. So, a little bit of history. National Public Radio did a article about it. It seems kind of weird because National Public Radio with a print article, but that's the world we live in. And it says, Oregon's LGBTQ community worries that a new law will keep them from obtaining guns. And it's exactly what you think it is. And I was a little bit put out that NPR didn't approach Pink Pistols for this, but I'm used to it by now. And just as a point of interest, the header picture has a transgender woman with an AR-15 that has a drum magazine and looks like an arm brace. So, I'm sure that's going to piss off all sorts of people. But we've talked about Measure 114 before. We all know it's hot garbage.
Oh, yeah.
And, when I saw this, it was, this is all true. And I don't know, I probably should have made a statement about it before, but I've got a lot going on in my life. However, I was contacted by a reporter for, I believe it was the Daily Caller, who wanted to know if Pink Pistols had a comment about this. And sure, I will gladly talk to the press. And so I wrote something, and then I thought about it for a little bit, and it's like, we should just, I've done most of the work. We'll go ahead and issue a press release. And I'm not going to read it out loud because it's not super long, but it's not super short either. But we'll link to it. And, okay, there's a turn of phrase that I'm really proud of, and a lot of people really like it. I don't know if I thought of it. I actually feel like I heard it somewhere else, and I co-opted it, but I don't know from where. And so I'm talking about how this is very much like North Carolina's pistol purchase permit, which is a Jim Crow era law rooted in racism.
Which is also very similar to the New York State pistol permit coupon law.
I didn't want to get things bogged down in details, but
okay.
I did the racism, and racism bad, and then I said, and this one is even worse because it doesn't ban, but it applies to all firearms, not just handguns, and so. Yeah, I say here, Measure 114 applies to all firearms, not just handguns, and so in this manner, it drinks deeper from the tainted well of discrimination.
That phrase so much.
So good. So good.
I I really hope I'm the one who invented it. I fear that I'm not, but I will love to take credit for that. And
Just
so,
channel your inner Oscar Wilde.
thank you. I'm not entirely I know who he is. I'm not entirely sure what you're referring. Oh, you will, Oscar, you will. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, I got that one now. I mean, people who listen to the show, you know what I'm going to say. But here's the bit at the end, which you may not have heard. And I'll just read this because it's like 2 sentences. In summation, Measure 114 is a profoundly discriminatory law that ultimately will not pass muster with the courts, especially in light of the recent NYSERPA v. Bruin ruling. To that end, Operation Blazing Sword, Pink Pistols, is pleased to announce that it will be filing an amicus curiae brief on behalf of the plaintiffs suing to overturn this law in the Iyer v. Rosenblum suit. So, yeah,
Nice.
we are going to help kick the crap out of this law. And if I have any input with the lawyers like I did with NYSERPA, it'll be, oh yeah, you really want to point out to Oregon just how much this discriminates against queer people, and you don't want to be discriminatory, do you? You don't want to be unwoke, do you?
Yeah, I'm also. Excuse me.
You okay, David?
Yeah, sorry about that. Just
No
dry spot in my throat. But that's one of the things I've said for quite a long time in regards to discrimination is, for example, all the attacks against arm braces. I mean, what was the intent of the person who developed the arm brace but to help disabled shooters be able to continue engaging in their activities?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there are people who misuse that product, but it's not the fault of the product. So I would really like to see in one of the states where they've already put in some kind of arm brace ban to have a lawsuit, the Americans with Disabilities Act basis, because that would just be entertaining to watch. Is you've got to pick: are you more supportive of the disabled, or do you more hate gun owners? Because you can only have one. So that will be interesting if that comes to fruition. But I think that goes side by side with what Erin was saying about the OBSPP amicus curiae brief. You're discriminating against the queer community. Do you really want to be seen as doing that? That's just some nice legal judo.
Thank
Or Aikido, or one of the other martial arts that redirects people. Which is the one that's the martial art of folding clothes with people in it?
Aikido.
That's judo.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was Aikido.
Aikido is redirection of energy, standing up. It's throwing people down a lot, but you stay on your feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Judo and jujitsu are often described as the Japanese art of folding clothes while people are still in them.
Judo maybe, but
Jujitsu
is different. Hold on a second. I've got a meme for this.
Actually, okay, Oddball, step in and tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that jitsu means basically the art of kicking ass, whereas do is more of a formalized sport for tournaments. Therefore, judo is a modified, friendlier tournament type version of jujitsu.
Correct. Jiu-jitsu is supposed to be the more actual combative type art, and judo is supposed to be the competition version of it.
Okay.
No. Jiu-jitsu is the predecessor of Krav Maga. Judo is what bagels are made from.
Oh, okay. You're going with that. Okay.
It works better if you put a little verbal stank on it. Judo. Jiu-jitsu.
And there's my jiu-jitsu meme, which is of a Hasidic Jew in full regalia with the caption, Jiu-jitsu, we will win.
Yes.
And I have a feeling that's one of the backup players for Mordecai. Mordecai Jefferson Carver.
So the last one that I posted about is I didn't realize that it was in front of Judge Benitez until recently.
Saint Benitez of the West.
He strikes again.
Wow.
So, if you're unaware, in the battery of laws that California has recently passed against gun ownership and the Second Amendment in general, one of the provisions in one of the laws, it is Section 2 of Senate Bill 1327 that was passed this year, makes it so that if you sued the state of California over a Second Amendment violation and you are not found 100% in the right, then you, your attorneys, and any person or group that the state determines is backing you are liable for the state's legal fees.
All legal fees involved in the case, yeah.
Right.
Are you going to share St. Benitez's quote?
I don't have the answer. So I was going to run up to that.
Okay.
I try to find that quote. But so some folks have brought a lawsuit against California over that law, and things had not been going well to the point that the Attorney General of California actually said, "You know what? You're right. This law is indefensible. I give up."
Yep.
Governor Newsom, after hearing this news, sent his office's attorneys to tag in, and they would defend the law.
And they were so prepared.
Which, one, there's a good question about whether or not that's proper and that they have the power to do that, especially, when you go, okay, well, somebody else can just follow up and file a lawsuit, and the state's attorney general has already said, no, I can't in good consciousness say with a straight face that this law is at all constitutional. But
well, especially given the idea that that you would have to provide fees to the state when, like, the whole point of the state is to is to supply the arbitration and the judges,
right,
and all that. And it's one of those, like, that's that you can't have. I mean, you can have, like, legal arbitrators and all of that, but when it actually comes to a court hearing, especially on something that is constitutional, this is actual law, like, the judge needs to be an agent of the state. Like, it needs to be, whether you're doing a civil suit or a criminal suit. And so the idea that, like, I mean, the state has to pay for it.
So and a couple more things leading up, and I think that's related to the quote David was talking about. But before I get to that, but wait, there's more. When the governor's office's lawyers showed up, Benitez actually straight up asked them, so if it was a distinct possibility that you personally would have to pay out of your pocket to pay for all the legal fees incurred here today, would you be up here defending this case?
That's the one.
And they stared at their shoes for a good while.
Yep.
And
how do you answer that?
Right. and absolutely, this law is quite clearly put in place to be a chilling effect against people trying to defend their Second Amendment rights through the courts. And the quote that I was thinking you were talking about from Benitez is, when people feel they can't go to the courts, if that process is taken away from them, what's left? The result is either civil disobedience or violence.
He's not wrong. It's the boxes.
He is absolutely not wrong. In Friday's tentative ruling, said this ruling was not about firearms regulations. This is about a constitutional right. And honestly, it's not a constitutional right dealing with the Second Amendment specifically. This is the right to address grievances with the state, which is a big freaking deal. It doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter what side you land on the Second Amendment. If the state can have the ability to punish you for questioning whether they have the constitutional power to do something or not, that is deeply troubling, to say the least.
Yeah, I was going to say deeply troubling is a very mild way of putting it. Like the judge said, what are their other alternatives?
And actually, this article is full of quotes from him, because he actually said that in this case, I can't think of anything more tyrannical.
And for a sitting judge to say that,
yeah, it's
well, especially since this law is also, I mean, it is by nature tyrannical, because not only does it say, oh, if you lose your case, you have to pay our legal fees, you have to pay the state's legal fees, but it's if you lose any bit of your case.
Yes.
Right. Oh, and something I didn't notice until just now, and I need to call them out and praise them when they deserve to be praised. Before the law was passed, the ACLU California Action Committee went on record saying that it would, quote, would set a dangerous legal precedent.
Good on them.
When the Californian ACLU is against something that's restricting the Second Amendment, you screwed up.
Yeah, it would be. I would like to also see the national ACLU call it out, because they haven't been very helpful either.
Well, yeah,
but yeah, what I was trying to say is that this law, how it's written, if at any point in time, like if you lose, you pay the state's legal fees. Also, if at any point in time any of your complaints are dismissed within this case. Yes. So if they rule that, yes, we were entirely unconstitutional with banning AR-15s, but magazine bans are totally fine, or background checks are totally fine, whatever add-on that you have on there.
Control du jour.
Yes, so long as they uphold any one piece, if they uphold like one sentence from one law, you lose, you pay our legal fees.
And the government's not going to be shy about racking them up.
It's about all the monies.
Yeah.
And in the event that you win, you decimate them. You have a total victory, and every single last note that was in your in your case,
Jot and tittle,
is gone through, and the judge is like, yeah, we got no defense on this. They don't pay you. It only goes one way.
Right.
Yeah. Unless you bring a separate lawsuit for court costs and win that as well, which is another challenge.
Mm. And with the number of experts that have stacked up against this, I would actually be somewhat surprised if the state attempts to appeal the decision, and I would be, as goofy as the Ninth Circuit is, I would be shocked if the Ninth Circuit doesn't agree with Benitez on this, as it's just ridiculous, and I'm glad they're getting spanked for it.
I mean, when the chief lawyer of the state backs off and says, I'm not going to do it, most judges are going to look at that and say, really? I mean, and you guys are still pursuing this? It's not a good look.
Well, and this was after the Attorney General tried to say that, oh, well, this is patterned after the
anti-abortion bill.
The anti-abortion bill in Texas, which, no, it really isn't. But they can say it is, because they can say whatever they want. When he said, oh, well, it's perfectly fine because it's just like this bill, Benitez asked, wait, isn't that the one that you wrote a letter saying how horrible and unconstitutional it was? But when you do it, it's a good thing?
Yep.
Again, the laws can only go one way.
If they did not have double standards, they would have none.
So, I mean, again, just all of these are going through it. I mean, even, well, this one would go up to federal because it's just a California law.
Well, no, I mean, it's in federal court.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Benitez is a federal judge.
Yep.
So, yeah, in theory, it could go all the way up to petitioning SCOTUS, which would
I would
be
like
horrifying and hysterical at the same time.
I mean, I don't even know if okay, it would make it to SCOTUS. I think SCOTUS would basically, what's the term, remand it back to a lower court. It's the equivalent of, you idiots, it should be self-evident, slap, slap, do it again.
Or to phrase it differently, it would be the equivalent of, as per my last email.
Well, and the only way SCOTUS would touch it at all is if, for some strange reason, the Ninth Circuit went completely insane and said, "Oh yeah, no, that's a completely kosher law. That's cool," which I don't think even the Ninth would do that.
I mean, they're wacky, but they're not that crazy.
Right.
Well, I could be proven wrong.
Yeah, never underestimate the amount of crazy coming out of California.
Yes. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Speaking of crazy in California.
Yeah, I see something here about killer police robots.
So I added this. It's from about a week ago. But this was something we discussed in either a previous roundtable or Magnum, I don't forget which, about so this all stems from the mass shooting that occurred during an anti-police protest in, I believe it was Dallas.
I believe so.
Where there were a bunch of people protesting and demanding defunding the police while being guarded from the crowd by police, when a shooter opened fire on them, specifically aiming at and killing, I believe, 5 police officers. And he had barricaded himself, and so the police used one of the bomb disposal robots that they had with basically a claymore attached to it. It wasn't actually a claymore, but effectively a claymore, to take out the shooter. And apparently the San Francisco Police Department said, this is a great idea. We need to get legal authority to do this. Not that we think we'll ever need to do it, but if the situation comes up, we don't want to have to ask then. And this apparently got a lot of public attention, and none of it was good.
Well, and they first started with asking for, can we mount guns on our drones?
Yes. Yeah, so there was an escalation of guns, and the answer to that was no. Well, how about bombs? Bombs are much shorter range.
Yeah.
So the San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted So last week, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted to authorize the San Francisco Police Department to add lethal robots to its arsenal. The plan wasn't yet robots with guns, but to arm the bomb disposal robots with bombs, allowing them to drive up to suspects and detonate. Shortly after the initial news broke, a No Killer Robots campaign started with the involvement of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the ACLU, and a variety of other civil rights groups. Mm-hmm. And so, basically, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors is backing away from this statement. They haven't actually said, no, we're not going to allow this anymore. We changed our minds, but they are backing away from support of it. So, nice try, Skynet. But it does mention that some police bomb disposal robots are actually mounted with shotguns and are used as part of the bomb disposal process. If they have to detonate the bomb in place, they'll send the robot in to shoot the bomb with a shotgun.
Yes.
But that's different than shooting a suspect with a shotgun or a bomb.
A little bit.
Yes. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
No, I agree.
And if you want something just kind of wacky and not at all firearm related, I've got another one.
I think we've gone on for a while, so I think it might be time to sign out.
Okay, this is just a short, funny one.
Oh, please.
So this is from WVLT Channel 8, Knoxville, Tennessee, from the 14th of December. And the headline is, Bear Sighted in Downtown Knoxville Garage. Yeah, basically a black bear wandered into downtown Knoxville near the city-county building, which is about as downtown Knoxville as it gets. You know, that's, for example, when I got my first suppressor, that's where I had to go to get fingerprinted, was the city-county building. And somehow, he just wandered into the parking garage, and I know that parking garage because that's where I parked when I went to the city-county building. And then it says, this is the best line of the article, after that, no one knows where he went. So a bear wandered into the center of downtown Knoxville, went into a parking garage, and vanished. And all I can imagine is somebody driving their pickup truck out of the garage, not realizing there's a bear in it.
Who drive tractor? Bear drive tractor.
How could that be?
Of course, there's also the concern that the bear might break into the property room and eat some cocaine.
Ooh, had to go
not again.
So if you'd like, I can put the link to this story in the show notes because it's, like I said, it's just goofy and silly, but
please do.
I mean, I saw the article, I'm like, oh, that's potentially concerning, and then I got to after that, no one knows where he went. How do you lose a bear in downtown Knoxville? I mean, that's concerning. Because bear.
That is a goofy story. But hey, Oddball.
Hey, Weer'd.
You know it's not goofy.
I mean, most of them aren't goofy.
Some of them are goofy. That'd be our listeners.
Oh, most of our listeners are pretty goofy. They're listeners.
Yes, I would like to thank each and every one of our listeners, and a very special.
I could name half a dozen of our listeners off the bat, and I doubt that a single one of them isn't goofy.
Oh, that's true.
And we love their goofiness.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Especially when they comment on the Facebook or MeWe pages.
Mm-hmm. Very special thanks to all our supporters on Patreon. If you're on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Assorted podcast to sign up. You get an early release of the podcast, plus bonus content with hilarious blooper reels, the ACP film tracks, and the ACP mag dump.
Also, we'll try that one again. Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I got a blog. It's weird.world.com, and I'm also on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
I have a bunch of blogs and some other websites, my charity work. You can get more from me at linktree/Erin Paulette, where you can find all of the stuff I do. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word.
And Oddball, where can we find you?
You find me at Guns, Cars, Tech, .com, and of course on the Assorted Calibers Facebook page.
But can we find you at Gunscars Tech? Can we really?
I mean, I'm gonna try to get something up this week. I've got
Title your sex tape.
Yeah, it really is.
And David, where can we find you and your sex tape?
No sex tape. Sorry. I can
That you know of.
Oh, that is a good valid point. Although, never mind. Not going to go.
Quote George Orwell, I will work harder.
Yes. But obviously I am here. I also am occasionally on Handgun Radio, unlike some other people, not under duress. I contribute to Blue Collar Prepping at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com, and I am a published author. My stories are in books under the name Brennabock, BRENABOCK, on Amazon, and a new one will be coming out around Christmas that will actually be under my actual human name.
Lies! You're not a human.
Well,
You're a meat popsicle.
I'm not that cold. I'm a meat bag. And I do not have a blog. I've been told I should have a blog, and I don't still, because the idea of having to do another thing weekly just fills me with existential dread.
I know that sensation.
Well, of course, you have a child.
Oh, yes. And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
I have a little tiny cannon. God, title of my sex tape.
Yes!
And you don't.
No one is safe!
No. I don't even know how to finish this. Our gifts are assorted. That's the safest bet. And so is our podcast. Good night, everybody.
The sizes of our cannons are assorted, and so is our sex tape.
Yeah.
I mean podcast.
I think I'm going to start calling mine Little Bada Boom.
Yeah.